I'm Dean. I'm the dad.
I'm Laura. I'm the mom.
And I'm Krysta. I'm the daughter.
And together we are Family Plot. Very nice. Like it a lot. Happy holidays, whatever you celebrate, however you celebrate. May this season be an absolute joy for you. A couple of bits of housekeeping, and then we're on to the show. First and foremost, Patreon. If you want to help us out, you can throw us a dollar or $3 a month through Patreon.
And could we use the help right now?
We absolutely could. Every little bit helps, though, so yeah. And if you do, you get some cool stuff, so that's the way that works. If you can do a monthly thing, you can just throw us $1 or $2 with Buy Me a Coffee. If you cannot do that, one thing everyone can do is, if you enjoy the show, share it on social media.
Share it with friends.
With family.
With everyone. And if you don't enjoy the show, please keep it to yourself. Very nice. Very nice.
If you can't say something nice,
don't say it at all.
If you can't say something nice, shoot them in the head till they stop moving. Oh, wait, no, that's not.
No.
That was bad. You just started out talking about happy holidays, whatever you celebrate, blah, 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 and then you're talking about shooting them in the head until they stop moving? No, bad Dean.
Bad dad. No.
Let's talk about the show, because she didn't shoot people in the head.
No, I don't think she shot anybody ever. No. Tonight, we discuss an indigenous woman born in the late 1700s who became an icon for strong women everywhere. She literally became a part of history, and while the expedition where she earned her fame does not bear her name, the story truly cannot be told without her. Tonight, we discuss Sacagawea. But first, Krysta has a corner.
It's not just any corner, it's Krysta's corner.
How's things in Krysta's corner this week?
Hello. Everything is as okay as it's gonna get. I'm tired. None of us feel good. Well, Dad, how are you feeling? I guess I should ask.
I'm okay. I'm not as good as I have been or could be, but I'm okay.
Something. How about you? What's going on?
Nothing much. We decorated the tree. We did decorate the tree.
Yep, the tree has decorations.
And Lexi has decorated other parts of the house with garland.
Daddy, did you see the Krysta card that I found?
No.
Look at my little hand. My hand is so...
Yeah, she is. She's got such a bigger hand.
When we put up the tree in the decoration box, there was a little Christmas card greeting from Crystalline from 2018, which was when we came back to Kansas City from California. And it is a little white painted hand. It's little snowman made out of her fingers. And it says, if snowflakes were kisses, I'd send you a blizzard.
Aw.
It's so sweet.
It is very sweet. Like our Chris.
Yes, our Chris is so sweet, too.
You know it. I had chimichangas earlier. That was fun. That was tasty.
You had chimichangas. How'd you get chimichangas?
Well, they were in the freezer.
So you ate chimichangas without us?
Well, I ate a couple without you guys.
Are there more?
Yeah.
I don't think they're actual chimneys. I think they're beef and bean burritos.
Well, yeah.
That's
but
okay. That's okay. Now I know what you can eat for dinner.
I got brats. I'm okay.
I didn't know you
You
still
have
had brats.
brats?
Wow.
Yeah.
Huh.
You have like food or something.
Bro. No.
Woo!
Sorry.
Yeah, girl. I'm trying to be nice. I haven't taken my shoes off yet. I wouldn't do that to y'all. Because my shoes have been in these feet since
You mean
5:30 this morning, or my feet have been in these shoes since 5:30 this morning, and I am absolutely sure that they smell horrendous. Terrible.
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 My Spanish teacher feels bad for me because I said that I don't feel good, because I don't. And she's just like, well, I'm sorry, I hope you feel better soon. She didn't make me answer any questions in class. She was just like, okay, I'll give you your day off.
That was very nice of her. However, you still have to answer questions.
I do answer questions. She just didn't make me this time. I finished my assignment.
That is
And I
good.
turned it in.
yay for finishing assignments.
That is super good. You have anything else you wanted to tell us about?
I've been working on drawing,
Good.
and I've been getting better at drawing, like, tuning humans. That's fun.
Cool.
You're a toony human. You are.
So everyone else nicely takes two. I put some out on my hand, and Krysta takes all of them. Did you see that? Wow. Oh, Daddy slapped you.
I gave them back.
You did give them back.
Well, I just pressed the slap button. I didn't actually slap my kid.
Well, of course. I know. You're right. I was being playful. But they didn't know that.
Gentle smack.
It's a love smack. It's a love slap. So, anything else?
I made a new friend.
You made a new friend? Another new friend?
Yeah.
Cool. Good job.
Oh my goodness. We will keep them unnamed, but new friends. Yay.
Very nice.
Yeah, that's about it. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
You wouldn't tell me what your plan was, and then
That's why, because she knew she didn't have much to say. She's like, I'm not telling you because you'll start throwing me information that you want me to talk about, and I don't want to talk about that shit.
Well, no. I had it planned out, and then I found out what I was going to talk about was pretty dumb because I've been ranting about it before. I was going to talk about how I made it to season 2 of Supernatural, because I've been obsessing over that recently. But
You have been watching some Supernatural.
I love Supernatural.
yeah, it's a good show.
Yes, it is.
All right, so the first thing we got to get into if we're going to talk about Sacagawea is the Akaitika, and I may not be saying that right, and if I'm not, I do apologize. Also known as the Ajadika, or perhaps that's Agadika. In the words of indigenous peoples, that means eaters of salmon. They were eventually dubbed the Lemhi Shoshone by those that settled in Utah. This was an indigenous nomadic tribe that lived on salmon, trout, and other fish, ate gooseberries and camas root, which gooseberries, blah. I had gooseberry pie once. You don't want it. And occasionally hunted and killed buffalo for meat, cloth, and other staples. Now, at this point in history, they're not quite doing that yet. They won't really start until early to mid 1800s. But like most tribes that hunted buffalo, they wasted no part of the animal. They intermarried with the Bannock tribe as well as the Allen-Tudite tribe. Oh, I'm sorry, the Tukadeka tribe. Alan Tudyk does not have his own tribe. Which means they tended to range through Montana, Wyoming, North Dakota, and Idaho. They were allies of the Salish and Kootenai indigenous peoples of Montana, which were dubbed flatheads by settlers, which is odd because they don't engage in head flattening, and warred with the Blackfeet Indians, which was a collective name for multiple related tribes in Montana and southern Canada. It was this tribe that Sacagawea was born into.
That reminds me of a terrible, old joke, something about truth-telling Whitefoot and lying Blackfoot.
I don't.
I seem to remember it from like an old movie. I feel like it was maybe Bob Hope or
Bing Crosby?
Bing Crosby. Yes.
My brain wanted to say Bob Ross. That is not the right Bob.
Bing Crosby. Or Bing Crosby. Like one of those older, like...
Tasha Yar's dad.
I didn't know that until just now. That's cool, too. All right. But...
Denise Crosby? You didn't know she was the daughter of Bing?
I didn't know that was her name.
Ah, okay. Yeah. Tasha Yar's dad.
Oh, crazy. All the different. Anyway.
Krysta, do you want to talk about her early life?
I am so sorry. Was that while y'all were talking?
Yeah. Yeah, because you were all your stuff. Anyway, go ahead.
You know, I'm being dumb. Okay?
You're not dumb. Never.
She was born in May of 1788. Ha ha, very funny. You put me in the May part.
I mean, you know.
Or in 1789. Most sources say 1788, but a few disagree, putting it a year later. Sorry.
Yeah.
Now it should be understood that we know very little of her early life because most American indigenous cultures, indigenous, excuse me.
You're doing fine.
Cultures kept tribal records and information through oral tradition. Even the name we know her by, Sacagawea. Sacagawea. Was not her birth name, but rather what she was called by the tribe that captured her. Her real name is lost to history. She was raised in the bosom of the Rocky Mountains near the border of present-day Montana and Idaho. In 1800s, a tribe known as
Hidatsa?
You can go with that. I apologize if I said that wrong. Armed with rifles on a buffalo hunt, encountered Sacagawea. Sacagawea. I'm sorry, I keep saying
You're
that
fine.
wrong.
It's a hard word.
Who was around 12 at the time and kidnapped her and several other girls, while killing several men, women, and boys. They dubbed the 12-year-old Bird Woman, which is what we know her by today. She stayed with her captors for about a year before she was sold into a non-consensual marriage to a trapper from Quebec or whatever. Sorry.
It's okay.
That's French?
Yes.
Yeah.
Toussaint Charbonneau.
Toussaint Charbonneau. In addition to
Sacagawea,
he also purchased another
Shoshone
woman from the Hidatsa that they had dubbed the Otter Woman. Mm-hmm. Okay. It is not long after this that
Charbonneau.
Charbonneau and
Sacagawea. You were saying it right.
Sacagawea encounter Lewis and Clark's expedition.
Good job. Blech. That was
Okay.
hard. There were a lot of hard words in there.
Yeah. You're fine. And when you do American history, all of that will come in handy. You'll know things other people don't.
Yeah.
Let's take a moment for a word from our sponsors.
Hey, honey.
Yes, dear.
I feel sponsored.
Yay.
I also feel sponsored.
Yay.
And
Okay, hon, you want to talk about
yes, I'm on it. I am on it. I am feeling so sponsored that I'm gonna talk.
This is also my card from a while ago.
All right. So next we need to talk about the Corps of Discovery. This was a special unit of the United States Army that was put together by President Thomas Jefferson to explore and examine, as well as figure out how to financially exploit the Louisiana Purchase. They were led by Captain Meriwether Lewis and Captain William Clark. And some of our listeners may remember that we talked a little bit about Lewis and Clark when we talked about the Fort Osage and the time that they spent there.
Yep. Yes, we did.
In addition to soldiers, it also had civilians, scouts, and boatmen. It explored the Great Plains and the Rocky Mountains. In 1804, the Corps had reached a Mandan, which was an indigenous tribe village. With winter coming on, they established Fort Mandan. They prepared to winter there, and during the process met Charbonneau and his pregnant wife, Sacagawea. She would have been around 16 at this time. Clark found that Charbonneau could speak many native languages, and Sacagawea could speak many more. Lewis and Clark knew when they reached the headwaters of the Missouri, they would encounter several tribes, and their services could be invaluable. So they extended a job offer to Charbonneau and his wife, who then wintered at the fort with them. Clark nicknamed Sacagawea Janie and recorded the birth of her son, Jean-Baptiste Charbonneau, on February 11th, 1805. The Corps nicknamed the boy Pomp or Pompey. In April, they left Fort Mandan and moved on, traveling upriver on boats that had to be pulled by men on the banks or pulled along. On May 14th, one of the boats capsizes and Sacagawea dives into the water to recover much of the boat's contents, including Lewis and Clark's journals and records. Lewis and Clark praised her quick action and named the river the Sacagawea River in her honor 6 days later. By August that same year, they had reached the Rocky Mountains. There they encountered some Shoshone who were attempting to sell them horses for the journey. Charbonneau and Sacagawea came to help interpret the Shoshone, and there Sacagawea encountered her older brother, Camelwates, chief of the Shoshone. The two reunited, a story both Lewis and Clark recorded in their journals at the time.
So, I've just got to say, though, talking about the Corps of Discovery, first of all, I never knew that name for it. Never. Which is awesome to me because it's like, I don't know, an 1800s version of the Avengers, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's the Corps of Discovery. Na-na-na, na-na-na.
Well,
all these people in cool poses.
Hadn't Thomas Jefferson spent quite a bit of time in Paris, and they were like big on the musketeers and really big like flourishy things and titles and stuff. So it kind of makes sense considering that he was the one who got it together, that it would have a fancy kind of high dandy name, but that's just my thought on it.
So, once the Corps finished celebrating their reunion, they arranged for horses and members of the Shoshone tribe to guide them through the Rocky Mountains. The crossing took longer than expected, and their food supplies got short. As they came down the Rocky Mountains and reached more temperate regions, Sacagawea foraged and cooked camas roots for the Corps to help them regain their strength. The Corps reached the mouth of the Columbia River and there encountered an indigenous trader with an otter skin fur robe that Clark described as the most beautiful he had ever seen. They endeavored to purchase the robe, but in the end, it was Sacagawea who gave up her beaded belt to acquire the robe, which they intended to give to Thomas Jefferson. When they reached the Pacific Ocean on November 24th, every member of the expedition, including Sacagawea and Clark's slave, a man named York, voted to spend the winter there. In January, when a dead whale washed up by a nearby fort, Sacagawea insisted on her right to go see the monstrous fish, which she did.
Good for her.
On the return trip, she guided the Corps to the Yellowstone River Basin and through what would become known as the Bozeman Pass through the Rockies. This pass is the same one railroads would later pick as the optimal point through the Rockies.
Awesome.
Most history books refer to Sacagawea?
Sacagawea.
Frick yeah. Okay. As a guide. But she directed them in very few instances. Mostly in and around what is modern day Montana. Her role in the Corps? Yeah, okay, sorry. That confuses me every time.
You're
I
fine.
hate that word.
You're fine.
Was far more subtle and yet sweeping. As a woman with a child in the group, when they encountered indigenous groups, she confirmed that the Corps was
Peaceful mission.
Peaceful mission, which made the indigenous people trust them enough to at least parlay with the strangers.
I mean, talk to them, work with them, trade with them.
Parlay. Yeah. Upon returning to Fort Madan, I think I said that right. Where the journey started in September of 1806. Charbonneau. Frick him. That's fine. Was giving 320 acres of land and $500.33. That's weird. That's a weird amount of money.
Well, it's equivalent to over $1,200 in today's
$12,000.
Oh, $12,000 in today's money. That's a lot.
And that's not counting what the land would be worth.
Yeah.
Sacagawea herself. Didn't say that right.
Sacagawea, it's fine.
Sacagawea herself has never given anything for her role. Though in a letter, Charbonneau, by Clark, he wrote, "Your woman who has accompanied you that long, dangerous, and fatiguing route to the Pacific Ocean and back deserved a greater reward for her attention and services on that route than we had our power to give her at the Madonna."
Very nice. Good job.
Thanks.
You got it. After the expedition, Sacagawea and Charbonneau stayed in Mandan County for 3 more years before accepting an invitation from William Clark to move to St. Louis and enroll their son, Jean-Baptiste, in the St. Louis Academy, sponsored by Clark. In 1812, Sacagawea gave birth to a daughter, Lisette, who is described as being a year old in Jean-Baptiste's adoption papers, where he was adopted by Clark. Most believe that the daughter died in Fort Lisa? Sacagawea. Okay. Most believe that Sacagawea died in Fort Lisa shortly thereafter. One trader, however, claimed that she and Charbonneau were living at the fort and that Sacagawea was very sick and longed to see her people. Another traveler in his journals wrote that she had died of putrid fever and had left a fine infant girl. The infant girl passes out of history and many think she died. Others, though, claim that she left Charbonneau, married into the Comanche tribe, and returned to the Shoshone in 1860, where she then died in 1884. However, while these tales are common, there is no actual evidence to support them. And since we do not know where her body lies, we are unlikely to discover the truth.
So let's talk a little bit about Jean-Baptiste. As the infant who had accompanied Lewis and Clark and Sacagawea on their famous expedition, Jean had lifelong celebrity status. He befriended a German prince, lived in Europe for several years, learned 4 languages, had a son that passed away, and then returned to the States where he lived on the western frontier. He had eventually died on his way to mine gold in Montana. Now, her name, Sacagawea, which we have spelled with a G, there's actually 3 ways to spell it, one with a G, one with a J, one with a K. But it is assumed by many to be her birth name. And there is a movement that claims that her original name with the Shoshone was Sacagawea, spelled with J, which meant boat puller or boat launcher, and that the Hidatsa used their version of that name. However, there's a lot of controversy around that argument. Most think it's Sacagawea. It means bird woman. It perfectly fits the Hidatsa language. And so that is her name. And her real name was not Sacagawea, which is why I said it's probably I wrote that it's probably lost to history. Sure. Now, I didn't actually say that. Someone else did. But yeah.
Okay.
So that's what we know, but I'm going to go and add that I learned so much doing the research for this. Like, I only ever thought she was a guide. I had no idea she was married, nor that she had been forcibly married.
Right.
I had no idea she had a kid on the expedition.
Well, now, I'm surprised that you didn't realize that, because even the Sacagawea gold dollar that the United States Mint put out, that shows her with Jean-Baptiste on her back.
Yeah, and most pictures do show her with
the baby, because that is her son, and she took the baby with her the entire trip.
Yeah, and like most of the time that they show her with that papoose contraption on her back. I just never knew that's what that was. I thought it was like a backpack or something.
No, I've known that she traveled with a baby, but that's probably the mom in me, that. But
yeah, I also didn't know she was only like 16 or 17 when she started this trip.
We talked about, we learned about all of that, and maybe because, maybe it was more prevalent when I was growing up, because my school district was Fort Osage, so a lot of our lore and stuff, plus we live in Independence, Missouri, which was one of the jumping off places for the Sacagawea Trail. So there's a lot of that history that's kind of wound up here in our local history. So maybe that's why I'm a little more familiar with it.
Yeah, I said, the
whole idea on wanting us to do this was that last Friday after Thanksgiving is a native or indigenous people's day, and I felt like it would be really positive of us to tell a story about a strong native woman.
And yeah, I don't know that they get much stronger than Sacagawea. I mean, again, she stayed with the man who literally bought her like a slave until her death, most likely. Now, there is that whole thing of a woman turned up who had a silver star that had been given to everybody who was in the Corps of Discovery to say, I had done this. And supposedly this woman had that star. But if so, just most people don't think it was Sacagawea. Even contemporaries at the time seemed to think that Sacagawea died at Fort Lisa.
Gotcha.
And probably due to illness, maybe due to, having two kids at 17 and 25 and walking across most of the country.
People did that back then, though. That's the thing.
So I don't know. There was so much I did not know about her. Like, I just thought she was a guide. What I did not know is she was a guide when they got to where she had grown up over near Montana. But other than that, she sort of let them do their own thing. She just talked to the indigenous people for them. And the reason the indigenous people were willing to listen is because this woman was coming over with a baby. And it's hard to look threatening if you're carrying a baby. Unless, of course, you're talking to a group of young men, and then they'll scatter like roaches. But seriously, there was so much I did not know about Sacagawea, so it was interesting to learn it all. And I guess I should put my because we have a couple of controversial facts that we put out there just because we know so little about her life. I do not believe her name was Boat Puller or Boat Launcher. Because why would you name a kid that? I mean, yeah, it makes sense if you're naming her from the point of history. Well, she was with this group that had a lot of boats, so we called her Boat Launcher. Yeah, but you didn't know that with the point you were naming her. So I don't even think well, okay.
I mean, there's not much final thought about this. It's more of hey, I learned from this. Hey, this is pretty cool. She
was a rock star.
Yeah, exactly.
Before there were rock stars.
Exactly. She was wonderful. And she seemed like a great person. There's not. I don't think there was much to discuss there. I think that it's nice to learn about such a strong woman, especially at that time. Right.
Now, someone I don't like in this is Charbonneau, her husband.
Yeah.
I don't like Toussaint Charbonneau much at all.
Why? Because he bought a wife?
Because he bought two.
Well, I mean, he was a trader. It's not exactly like you can go hang out at the church to meet local women.
And I get that, and I also get that he followed a lot of native customs.
Yeah.
And native customs did allow for men to have more than one wife, so I get that too. But the reason I don't like Toussaint Charbonneau is, okay, even though it worked out for the baby, for little Pompey, Jean-Baptiste, even though it worked out for him in the long run, he talked Sacagawea into letting Clark adopt their child so that they can go out and, I don't know, do more trapping or whatever. And Charbonneau lives to a ripe old age. Like, people thought he died at Fort Liza when it was attacked by Native Americans, but no, he didn't. He wound up living till like in his 70s at some point. But it just, you give up your kid to Clark, which I get that Clark loved that kid. Okay. He fell in love with him on the trip. And Clark put him through the academy at St. Louis, which again, something I didn't know. I didn't know that he'd been in a local learning institution, probably one of the earliest ones in Missouri. So, yeah, and nor did I know he was such a celebrity to the point where he went to Europe and basically made money just because, hey, I'm Sacagawea's kid. Yeah, so I don't like Charbonneau very much because I think Sacagawea probably would have wanted to keep her child, but she was raised in one culture, grew up in another as basically a slave, was eventually sold off. So Charbonneau probably treated her better than the Hidatsa did. I don't know. For someone who did so much and was such a strong woman, she still got, in my way of thinking, horribly used.
But women did it.
I know,
Some of the men you just hold the grudge against.
She couldn't have anything in her name at that point in time. She had no rights at that point in time. In fact, she probably wouldn't have been able to join them if she hadn't been married to Charbonneau. Because taking an unmarried indigenous woman on a group with all of these unmarried men, that would not have flown at all.
Definitely not. But I've got to be honest, it's still... Back then was a very rough time. And a lot of stuff was rough back then. Some of the men just... I feel like it should have been common sense even then that those are humans, regardless of what they look like or what gender they are. But, I mean, that's what everyone else had been doing, and that's just sort of how the human brain works. Everyone else does something, you feel like you sort of have to do it too.
I get that. I just, like I said, she was a strong woman, and she, at points, she shows it. Like, at one point, she finds out there's this dead whale, which she's never been near a coast at that point, doesn't know what a whale is. So they're like, well, it's this big fish. I want to see that. Take me to that. And she insists on it. So, which, if I were her, I would want to go see it too. Wow, that is a big fish. I bet you she told as many people as she could that until she died, which I think happened fairly soon after it. I think she died at Fort Liza. I don't think she survived. I don't think she left her husband. She seemed one who followed the rules of her situation. She didn't really go out of the way. And it's good to hear Clark saying, like, if we'd had more that we could have done, we would have done for your wife as well.
Yeah.
And a lot of it was just, especially though, like knowing that she gave her beaded belt as something that was purely hers to get this robe that they wanted to give to Jefferson. Yeah. That just, it touches me somehow. I don't even know what to think of that. I mean, it's just like, does he deserve it? Not really. Not really. But, you know, she was a wife. She had it in her power to do, and she did it. And I guess in the end, like Charbonneau got what today would be $12,000 and an F ton of land.
Yeah.
You know, so.
What are you going to do?
Yeah. So I don't know. I guess I'm fascinated by how strong she was and how independent she was. But at the same time, I'm still kind of appalled by the time period and the way she got used.
And, like, you know, there's a lot of women, like similar to that. Not exactly like that, but, like, there were a lot of women who got misused like that back then. Like I've said, it doesn't give them any right to do it. It doesn't give them any more right to do that or be like that. But because I do agree with that, I am fairly disappointed that even adults back then would have done that. But because it's so immature. But like, I mean, when you look at it, it's just how a lot of things went.
So I do want to ask you both a question. We have a couple of, let's say, questions on the table. Where she died and what her birth name was. Do you guys think that her name was Sacagawea originally?
No, I don't think so.
No, definitely
I don't
not.
think so. Not knowing for sure that she was taken prisoner by another tribe. That was one of the big things that they did. They gave them their own name. They said, you will be known as this. That was very
tends
nice. To be something that you hear a lot in tales of people who were taken to other tribes, that et cetera, et cetera. So, no, I don't think that Sacagawea was probably her birth name. I think that it probably was just the name that she was given, and then the name that she chose to continue to use with her husband.
Mm-hmm. I definitely agree with Mom on that one.
So you don't think the Shoshone named her boat puller?
No, probably not.
I mean, she must have had a pretty decent standing, too, if her brother went on to become chief.
Yeah.
So it almost sounds like she was in a fairly high-ranking household of her tribe as well. So she most likely would have had a name that corresponded with that, something that would have had a little more prestige to it, probably.
I agree. And I wish that someone had written down Kamea, I'm not sure how you pronounce his name. Kamea called her Little River or whatever, I'm sure he used her birth name. Yeah. And I wish somebody had jotted it down for posterity. Did not call her Sacagawea. Did not call her Sacagawea, called her this. But, and then the other question I have is did she die in her 20s at Fort Liza, or did she somehow survive that, leave her husband, and go marrying into the Comanche tribe?
I almost feel like she may have had some kind of a health issue going on once they had done all of that traveling and she had had the second child. And that may have even had something to do with them sending Jean to Clark, because oftentimes look at me. I was an older mom, and when I was an older mom, they were very concerned about health issues and all of the things. Well, 25 now is not old to have children. In that day, it was definitely, and at that point she had put her body through so much on that long trip, that I wonder if it didn't, bring down her constitution to a point where she wasn't able to take care of 2 kids. She wasn't able to, come back from, if she did have a really bad illness, even if she did live through that and she went somewhere else. Even still, I feel like that may have fed into the fact that why they sent Jean-Baptiste to live with Clark as well.
Yeah, and honestly, I do agree with that. I definitely think that her body may have been, tired out after all of that.
Absolutely. She had a rough life, even though it wasn't super long.
Her taking care of that child every time, all the time. Yeah. She always had the child on hand. She couldn't put him down.
Yeah, but
that would get risky.
Even if she hadn't been forced to marry Toussaint, she would have been in the same boat. That's what Native women did. They took care of the kid. I mean, the only thing, the men were involved, but some tribes, okay, I've heard this, I don't know who, but I want to say that some tribes would take the kid and go put him on a post.
Yep.
And just leave him there for a while. Let him cry it out. To teach the child that somebody will be along. You don't need to cry.
Yep. And that was super important for the survival of their infants, because their infants had to be silent. Because if they were trying to hide because they were under attack, if the baby cried out because they were uncomfortable or because they were hungry, then that could kill everyone. So they had to teach those infants how to rely on their parents to take care of their needs without crying out. And that was something that a lot of Native Americans did back in the day, for sure.
Yeah, so I don't know. Just a little weird, but I've got to say, I really enjoyed this episode just because I feel like I learned so much.
I'm glad I talked you into doing an episode that you got to learn a bunch, because it takes a lot for me to get you. It takes a lot for me to get you on a topic that you don't already know armloads information about. I feel like most of the time.
Yeah, that's not true at all. I do a ton of topics I know nothing about. I just learn.
No, I'm just talking about for me to give you a topic that you don't know a lot about.
Oh, I was going to say, I do it like Ken Rex McElroy. I knew some about that, but I didn't know half of what I wound up learning. And that guy, not good, not good. So that's pretty much our show. Thanks for listening. Thanks for the comments. Thanks to Bill Barrett. That last name is spelled Behrendt. Bill does our theme music, which I'll use as a ringtone. Because I am smart. And you probably can too. If you need music for a project, Bill's your guy. Or if you need someone to perform in an event, Bill does that as well. You can reach him at billbarrett@sbcglobal.net. Thanks to Paige Elmore, who runs Reverie Crime Podcast, an amazing true crime podcast. So if you need that, go get it. But she also has a Canva addiction, which she has combined with our own Krysta's artwork to create some of our logo art. Thank you, Paige.
Thank you.
Thanks also to Aaron Gnurk of the Big Dumb Fun Show, who continues to support us locally. Thanks, Aaron. Join our Facebook group. Whew. Okay, let me try that again. Join our Facebook group to suggest new episode ideas, discuss episodes, and generally hang about. Join us next week as we look into LA's underground city created by the lizard people.
The lizard people.
The lizard people.
We'll look more into that next week.
I guess we will. Are we just forgetting about the Honey Island swamp monster for now?
I just pushed it back. It will do it in like March or something.
Oh, okay. Sorry, Honey Island swamp monster. I just wasn't ready for you yet. Anyway. Bye.
Bye.